Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. Well, not always for too long. I will be the host of the show today and tomorrow, and then you guys probably won't hear me for a while, unless it's somewhere else, or who knows, maybe I could find my way back here eventually. Either way, for today's show, I got Jeff back on with me today.
Who's probably your replacement.
Yeah, looking like it.
I'm here to take over.
You'll hear him on Friday. Like I said, he won't be here with me on Friday for football show, but he will be talking fantasy football earlier on in the day, so make sure you check that one out. The GS.
That's 11 a.m., but I could be wrong also.
Yeah, so that's GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast there. Like I said, as for today's show, we will be previewing the Thursday night game between the Rams and Vikings. Second segment, we're going to be talking Seahawks. We'll be talking Earl Thomas and that team as a whole. And then the third segment, we'll be moving on to Tennessee, where they are looking to, I guess, cut Rashard Matthews. I think he's hoping they cut him. We'll talk about that, Titans, what we think of them. And then for the fourth segment, we will talk about whatever else is going on in the NFL. So starting out, we got Rams, Vikings. I mean, I'd say the two best teams.
Let's hold off on that until after the game.
I'd still say going into it, though.
I would say the Rams, but the Vikings are making me doubt them.
Yeah, but I'm not going to let that one game against the Bills really, at least for me. I think it's early, so I'm not going to let that shift anything. So I'd say for me, these are the two best teams in the NFC currently. I mean, maybe you go Eagles there, but yeah, I'd say two of the three best teams playing tonight, I'd say. Looking like Marcus Peters won't play tonight. I understand that, given, I mean, he hurt his calf on Sunday. No sense in having him play in an early week here. Feels maybe Sunday, then I'd assume he'd be playing. But either way, looking back at the teams, last week you had the Rams playing the Chargers, Rams being the home team in that one. They took care of business. I'd say the Chargers probably played about as well as they could, but it's just a point where the Rams were just the much better team. There's nothing the Chargers could really do. I mean, you're looking at this Rams team. Jared Goff has been playing well. Todd Gurley has been doing Todd Gurley things. Defense is playing very well. I mean, for me, this is the best team in football. What do you think of the Rams?
Oh, I think the best team in football also. Just Todd Gurley makes that whole offense better. They added so much to their defense. I don't really see holes in their game, to be honest. Yeah,
and I mean, when we say best team in football, I think it's like the best team in football by far. Just given,
I don't really see anyone else up there, yeah.
Just given how dominant they've been on all sides of the ball, and even special teams too, they've been solid as far. Like, they're solid all around. Coaching is great, special teams is great, offense is great, defense is great. I mean, there's really no flaw with this team. There's always talks about the team who wins the offseason. Usually they tend to not do well in the regular season. This Rams team seems different. I've always thought it was different also, just given the guys that they brought in were guys, they brought them into positions where they had needs at. They needed a number one receiver, you got Brandon Cooks. You needed secondary help, you got Peters and Talib. The only luxury pick I'd say that they got was Ndamukong Suh on the defensive line, and you can never have enough defensive linemen. I mean, defensive line is always a position where you can add as many guys as you want, as many star players as you want, because, I mean, the only goal there is to get to the quarterback. And I'd say Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh have done well to do that, and also stop the run over their careers, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. Donald has become probably the best defensive lineman in the league, and Suh is no slouch either. He's getting up there in age, but he's still playing at a high level.
I'd say they're two of the best three defensive tackles in football.
Who's the other one?
Fletcher Cox, I'd say, out of Philadelphia.
All right, that's a good point. Good point. But yeah, I like when also going to the Eagles when they signed Michael Bennett. I think people thought the same thing that the Rams are doing. But I think the Rams have just been playing better than the Eagles have.
Yeah, and the Eagles seems like the Eagles are a good team. It just seems like they're just starting to get into gear. So we'll see what ends up happening there.
The hottest team in football right now is the Rams, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's like teams like don't play. I wouldn't say they've been playing poorly against the Rams. Just the Rams have just been that much better. Like they're just the clear better team has been winning in this one.
Yeah,
especially against the Raiders. Then who they play week 2?
The Cardinals.
I think it was the Cardinals. They beat them 34-0 there.
They have been playing not so good teams, granted.
Yeah.
So this is their first real test.
Yeah, it kind of stinks the fact that you won't have Talib or Peters out there. At least it's looking like Peters won't be playing. And you look at the Vikings. Jeff pointed out to it. I mean, had a bad loss to the Bills. They were down 27-0 at the end of the first half. Put up 6 points in the fourth quarter. But,
And
I mean...
garbage time, though.
Yeah, garbage time, so it doesn't really matter at that point. I mean, they were just terrible. And it's not like they were in Buffalo. The fans were going crazy, jumping through tables and all that. No, they were in Minnesota, where I'd say Minnesota fans are very nice and very mellow and all that. Not like the craziness of the Buffalo Bills fans.
Okay, I kind of see. I
feel like it's like the thing where people from Minnesota are just very nice. I think that's at least what I've heard.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Don't take that bad. Like, at least you're not the Eagles fans who are known just to be bad people.
Yeah, it's just fans from that standpoint. But, I mean, yeah, the Bills wiped the floor with the Vikings here, won that one 27-6. I'm not sure what happened to the Vikings in this one, to be honest. I mean, they beat the 49ers week 1. They tied with the Packers week 2, and it's just...
Do you think it was just like they didn't play to the level and they just played to their opponent's level?
I think that's what it was. Maybe they saw the Bills. Okay, you see them. They get destroyed week 1. Week 2, they have a player retire at halftime. You're just thinking, okay, well,
That's
maybe...
still unbelievable to me.
Yeah, you're thinking, well, maybe we can take this week off. We don't got to play as hard and all that. And the Bills, obviously, were a team who knows they've been disrespected, and rightfully so. Okay, for those Bills fans who have said, well... No one really picked us to win it. Would all you experts know? You guys, like, they should know why no one was picking them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you guys were this so-so team and all that. Like, it's not like you guys were like 1-1 or anything like that. And everyone was picking the Vikings.
Joke.
Like, you guys, yeah, the Bills were a complete joke for the first 2 weeks of the season. That's no secret. So I don't regret picking the Vikings.
It looks pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean... But either way, I think this game against the Bills that the Vikings lost was just more so one where they just overlooked their opponent. I don't think this is indicative or definition of what the Vikings are. I think they're still a very good team, so I think they'll pretty much bring their A game for this one.
Absolutely. It's a big what people are saying, potential NFC Championship matchup, which I can agree with to a point. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. Because we all say these things. That's the beauty of football. We always say this team is going to be the best in football, and then they just come out and they're not the best, and we have a new best in football. There's never a consistent best except for the Patriots, but when it comes to the NFL, any team can be great at any time, and right now the Rams are the one that are great.
Yeah, it always fluctuates, like you said. I mean, it's a good team here, a good team there, and all that. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
you can't
not
really
like
tell.
it's not like the Patriots are the only consistent thing in the NFL.
And even then, look at this here. I mean, for the example,
They
they're
look
not
bad.
really looking great.
Their
Yeah.
secondary looks very poor.
Yeah. Any matchups you're looking forward to in this game? I mean, within the game itself, obviously we got Vikings, Rams, but any position battles or anything like that?
The defensive line versus Gurley is going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
That Vikings defensive line is stellar, no doubt about it. And facing Todd Gurley, the best running back in football, we've said, it's going to be very interesting.
I'm curious. Yeah, that's a good one to point out. People, when we talk about the Rams defensive line, obviously, you got Donald and Sue, but no one really talks, at least... I guess that takes away from other teams' defensive lines and all other teams' defenses, I'd say. I mean, the Vikings, again, they gave up 27 to the Bills, but I'm not going to let that define them. I mean, it could, but I won't yet. They still got a top 5 defense, I'd say, on paper. And, I mean, a matchup I'm looking forward to is... if Talib and Peters were playing, I'd say Diggs and Thielen versus those guys, but I'm sure they'll have a bit of a field day there. Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it's basically... Kirk Cousins versus this defense as a whole. Last week, Kirk Cousins didn't necessarily play well. I mean, only 296 yards and a touchdown there. He threw 55 passes, only completed 40 of them. Believe he threw any picks in that game last week? He did. He threw 1 pick. He got sacked 4 times. So, yeah, I mean, it's basically the offensive line and Kirk Cousins versus this Rams defense. I mean, no matter who's playing corner, I'd say they're still going to be decent, just given Sue and Donald and the rest of that defensive line are going to get into the backfield quick. So Cousins going to be pretty much going to have to be on his A game, basically getting the ball out quick here.
Yeah, But again, we're gonna see how fast Donald and Sue can get through that offensive line to Cousins and see if that will throw him off at all. But this is going to be a very interesting game. The Minnesota Vikings have a lot to prove in this game.
Definitely so. And I'm looking at it. I'm curious to see if Dalvin Cook will be out of this one. I haven't really seen much about it. Let me see. He's questionable currently. He's unlikely to play. I mean, the Vikings are optimistic. That's what Adam Schefter reported. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. And as far as his hamstring, again, it's one of those, it's an early week, so I'd assume he doesn't.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I just got a word that the Panthers just signed Eric Reed.
Oh, the safety?
Yeah, the guy that was dealing with Colin Kaepernick, he finally got signed.
We'll talk about that for the fourth segment. So.
It just breaking news.
Yeah,
sorry about that. But
no, it's all good.
I thought that would be interesting.
Where'd you get that from? Bleacher Report?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bleacher Report sent out a notification. And we'll talk about that for the fourth segment. I mean, that's secondary help right there that the Panthers have needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but as far as this game goes, I mean, we'll see if Dalvin Cook ends up playing. I mean, I'm assuming he won't. Latavius Murray didn't get going in the last game at all. I mean, he had 2 carries for 1 yard. I'm not sure what happened with the Vikings last week. I mean, it's one of those where I guess it happened. You move on and
explain.
Yeah,
like, you just got to dust it off and ride again.
Yeah, so we'll see.
You fell off the horse, get back on that horse.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening this week. I mean, as far as picks, let's get into those now.
Maybe the Bills are a team after this. Who knows?
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, okay. Granted, I know that was a pretty bold statement, but you never know. A lot of confidence can go a long way.
Maybe Josh Allen is the quarterback that they thought he'd be. I think that's what we take out of this.
Yeah. He really proved him. He proved himself definitely.
Yeah,
and I see that momentum is going to be a big factor in this game this week for the Bills.
Mm-hmm. And then as far as picks, you got the Rams, or you got the Vikings.
Excuse me, I had the Rams.
The Rams. I also got the Rams. I mean, Vegas has them as 7-point favorites, even without their 2 corners out. And like I said, Gurley, Goff, I'm sure they're going to play well. So.
I just think the Rams are the better team.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll both go with the Rams here. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here for this segment. Next up, Jeff and I will be heading to the NFC West and talking about the Seattle Seahawks and Earl Thomas. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Jeff and I spent that first segment previewing the Thursday night football game between the Rams and Vikings. We're both going with the Rams in that one. Game's in LA, and I think we're going to have the Rams wearing their throwbacks tonight. And those Rams throwbacks, I think, are some of the best uniforms in football. I mean, obviously, the Chargers powder blues, I think, are the best. What do you think?
Yeah, I would, mainly because I
love the powder blues. I mean, the powder blues are just consistently the best, I'd say.
Yeah, they are gorgeous. But there are other teams that are like the Jaguars' new uniforms. Like I would really put that up there. Those are really nice too.
Yeah,
I guess it is the same kind of blue. It's teal.
Yeah.
But honestly, for me, it's just the most simplest jerseys are the nicest.
Yeah, so I'm assuming
you don't want to try. The Jags tried too hard with their jerseys before, and now they went to a simpler route, and they look even better.
Yeah, so we'll be getting the throwbacks tonight. I mean, do the Vikings even have throwbacks to wear? Maybe they'll go with the color rush.
Their jersey right now, their color rush is just like the numbers are gold. Their jerseys right now are a updated version of the throwbacks.
It's like a modernized version of it.
Yeah, like the 49ers are the modernized version of their throwbacks also.
Yeah, so, I mean, at least we'll get to see something nice in the game itself.
Jerseys. I like the Vikings jerseys, pretty honest.
I mean, at least we'll get some nice unis if the game itself stinks. Purple is a good color. Yeah. Moving on from that, we got the Seattle Seahawks, okay? And Earl Thomas held out for training camp. I mean, he's basically held out all offseason.
He's still holding out technically.
Yeah, so we'll get into that right now. He's back. He came back week 1, but like Jeff pointed to, he is, as he puts it, I think he's the one who said he's holding in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he pretty much says that he's holding in.
Well, that's been a saying on like other news reports also, that's the quote.
Yeah, and then for those that are not sure what's holding in, basically, if he's got a teeny-weeny headache, if anything's not feeling right, he's not practicing.
No, he just doesn't want to. He just says, no.
Well, yeah,
that's what it feels like. He's just saying no.
Well, yeah, but and like we'll get into it right now. But he said that basically, if something just doesn't feel right, and it can be as minor as can be, he's not playing. He says he's investing in himself. And you know what? With this, I have no problem. Why?
He's terrible around him. Why does he bother?
Well, not even that, but I have no problem with this. Given if you're going to show up on Sundays and you're going to be picking off the ball like he has been to start the season, and you're going to play well, hold in all you want, and I get it. He's investing in himself. There's no reason to risk injury in practice.
Do you think he's at the end of his career?
He's 29 right now. I wouldn't say that. He's still one of the...
It feels like he's been in the league for a long time.
It does, and yeah, that's true. But you look at, he's still 29. He's still playing at a high level. I mean, the guy...
He just doesn't want to play for Seattle anymore, it feels like.
I don't think it's Seattle. I think it's just a matter of respect and disrespect is what he's feeling. Because he says if they're not going to pay him, then trade him. They never did that. And it's just like, I don't know. If you're Seattle, why don't you pay Earl Thomas? I feel like he's a leader, and he's a guy, like, I know they're trying to do a mini rebuild right now. You got Pete Carroll, top 5
That's
coach.
That's the reason they're in rebuild mode.
Well, I think what my point is basically that he's one of those vets you can keep around for a rebuild, basically to mentor the young guys, because he does seem like that kind of player. I don't know Earl Thomas personally, so I'm just going off of what he's shown us through the media and all that. Mm-hmm. He seems like one of those stand-up guys who basically, I'm a football player, I'll be there, I'll play hard-nosed football all the time, and
just
I help the young guys. Yeah. And I mean, again, it is a job for these guys, so I'm never...
Sorry to interrupt, but like when Richard Sherman left, he was saying that's not the same team, that's not the same organization, the front office is different.
It is different.
I think Earl Thomas is getting that also, and he's like, maybe he's right, maybe I should try to find new employment elsewhere and see if I can better myself. And I think he wants to get another championship. Mm-hmm. And I think he knows that Seattle is not that team.
Yeah. For Earl Thomas, like, let's say hypothetically, if he was to finish out his career with the Seahawks, I think we can both assume they're not getting a Super Bowl anytime soon.
No, absolutely not.
And like as far as this rebuild, I think that the Seahawks eventually in a couple years will be back to being a great team. Just given Pete Carroll just has that knack for.
Do you think he's going to stay that long?
Yeah,
I think they won't fire him.
No, I don't think so. Given we've seen Pete Carroll, like, he pretty much brought the Seahawks from the ground up when he first started there. I mean, he drafted guys like Thomas, drafted guys like Sherman, Cam Chancellor, you got Russell Wilson, and all these top players that they had in this little run that they had were all mid-round picks. It wasn't like he was just hitting on every first-round pick. No, the guy can identify talent, and one thing I like about him, he doesn't really let the politics game play in, meaning if you're a first-round pick, that doesn't guarantee you're a starter. Look at Matt Flynn, okay? Matt Flynn was brought in the year Russell Wilson got drafted, got that huge contract. Huge-ish, I'd say, comparing it to all these other new deals, but...
how from Matt Flynn, the backup quarterback, he got paid.
Yeah, so he did get paid, but Pete Carroll didn't care. Pete Carroll clearly saw, okay, I'm looking at it through preseason and training camp. Russell was obviously the better quarterback here. I'm going with Russell, and he made the right decision, obviously. I mean, he went out, traded for Marshawn Lynch. We saw what he did in the playoffs that 1 year for them. I'd say that's probably at least my favorite run of all time, that run against the Saints, just given, I mean, the dude was throwing everyone off of him. It was kind of like Bo Jackson and Tecmo Bowl type of thing.
Well, in Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl, he's just outrunning guys.
Yeah.
What Marshawn did was just basically just bowl everybody over. It was basically he was basically him a tank, and everyone else is just people. It's like him in Grand Theft Auto. He's the car, and everyone else is pedestrians. He's just running them over.
Yeah, I mean, the dude was basically just unstoppable. And I mean, even then, we can keep on going with the list with Pete Carroll, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, all those guys. He's brought them all on. Okay? So I think as far as Seattle goes, they'll be fine eventually. But getting back to Earl Thomas, I mean, do you have a problem with him doing the hold in, given he's playing well on Sundays and playing hard?
Playing.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'm not going. If he was like purposely not playing to his full potential on Sundays, then I would have a problem. Mm-hmm. But if he's still playing his best on Sundays, then I would just try to talk to him privately if I'm Pete Carroll, just to try to get to him, and not yell at him in public or anything like that. Just I would make this more of a one-on-one type of situation in closed doors.
And I guess if you are going to do this hold-out, hold-in type of thing, I guess this is the best way to do it. I mean, Earl Thomas at this point in his career, does he really need to practice? Probably not. But if you're not going to practice, at least play, and he's done that. So I'd say he's respecting the Seahawks in that way, showing up on Sundays. But I think
it's also like a resume thing. Like it's like a resume tape for other teams to go for him.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm curious to see because Le'Veon Bell is doing it a completely different way. Earl Thomas is like they're both opposite sides of the spectrum as far as how they're dealing with their contractual issues with the teams. And I mean, we've been talking about Le'Veon Bell a lot. He's been a story, and getting back to him as far as how that pertains with this. Le'Veon Bell, we've seen his teammates haven't been too happy about it. At least the start of the season, they weren't too happy about it. He still hasn't shown up. Now we're seeing trade talks happen.
I think the story's running dry.
The story running dry?
Bell, I mean.
I wouldn't say so. I think it's still pretty fluid, given, I mean, now we've got teams who are trying to trade for him and all that.
I just see him in nightclubs and strip clubs and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I get it. You won money, but yeah, you're spending money. Just pick. I'm honestly not caring anymore.
Well, I mean,
I'm getting tired of it.
That his outside personal life has nothing to do with this. It's just more so a football sense.
I'm just tired of everyone like following him around like he's like the most important guy in the world. Like he's being followed by all everything he does is named by the paparazzi and put on like Bleacher Report and ESPN.
But
and I'm just getting tired of it.
Yeah, I get that. But he's the number one running back in the league, and as far as the media, they don't really. It's going to get clicks and all. It's going to get ratings. That's why. And that's what it's about at this point.
I just like fresh news, and this doesn't really seem fresh anymore.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, you look at it. Le'Veon Bell, I mean.
Yeah, we were talking about Earl Thomas. This was like the segment, and then we got to Le'Veon Bell still.
Yeah, but I mean, it does pretend given its holdouts.
I know it's the same thing, kind of. It's just in a different. Earl Thomas is doing it differently than Le'Veon is.
Yeah, so we look at it. I mean, Le'Veon's going to be trading all that. I mean, you think maybe if Earl Thomas was to hold out into the season, do you think Pete Carroll would think about trading him? I mean,
no way.
No.
I don't. I think if Earl Thomas held out like Le'Veon is. Possibly, but if he keeps doing this like holding in thing, then no way.
Well, I'm saying if he held out and just wasn't showing up.
That might be different. But again, I think that they would ask for a lot for him, and I don't think many teams are going to go that deep for him.
Yeah, and as far as like when he's gone at the end of the season, because I'm assuming the Seahawks are just going to let him go and not give him a deal, which is ridiculous. I mean, I figure you trade the guy so you get something for him. There's
going to be a huge bidding war for Earl Thomas.
Yeah, he's still one of the best safeties in the league, so I don't get why you're just letting him walk for free unless they have some type of plan for him. But either way, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. But as far as the Seahawks go, honestly, I'd say right now they are the now second best team in the NFC West. I think that title before belonged to San Francisco, but with them not having Jimmy Garoppolo and CJ Beathard coming in, I'd say Seattle with Russell Wilson is going to be able to be 7-8 or 7-9, 8-8. And I just don't think San Francisco.
That's not really very good too. So that just shows how poor. I've said this before. How poor the NFC West looks. If the second best team is 8-8, that's not very good.
Well, I mean, we can. Well, obviously the best divisions are going to have top teams, but I'd say 8-8 is, I guess, that's kind of in the AFC East MO there.
8-8 is going to be like a good season for them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking like there's going to be, I think the Cardinals, the Niners, and the Seahawks are going to have double-digit losses. That's my bold prediction.
Do you think they'll all be at least 10 losses?
Yeah. I'm thinking both Seattle and Niners are going to be like at 6-10, and Arizona's going to be like 3-13.
Arizona, I could see being
the way that Arizona's been playing. 3-13 is like reasonable.
Yeah, now we got to see pretty much what Josh Rosen can do. As far as San Francisco, I could see them going 5-11, 6-10, somewhere around there. I think Seattle's going to end up 7-9 at the very least. I mean, this team is still good enough to compete, and I think Russell Wilson is still good enough to help them.
Any weapons around him?
That's true, but he does like. And you're looking at all the games, okay? With the Broncos, they lost 27-24. With the Bears, they lost 24-17. With the Cowboys, they won that one 24-13. They've been in each of these first three games. Russell Wilson's going to keep them hanging around. I'm assuming they'll beat the Cardinals next week in Arizona. I mean, they'll be 2-2 at that point. You'll play the Rams. They'll lose that one. They'll be 2-3. You got the Raiders. They'll be 3-3. I think they can beat the Lions. It's 4-3. 4-4 against the Chargers. And then I guess the last part of their season is where they start picking up losses. But with San Francisco, I think they'll split, and maybe they could take a game against the Packers, Panthers, or any of those other teams. So I think that's where they'll end up being 7-9, 8-8.
Okay, fair enough. But I'm still going with my 6-10.
Yeah, prediction. I mean that's not like a.
It's not like
it's not completely. Yeah, I mean that's still like very logical. What do you say? Logical prediction, I'd say.
You mean an illogical estimate?
Well, estimate, yeah, whatever. But either way, I mean...
some word that's big and sounds smart.
Yeah, so you look at Doug Baldwin. He's also back at practice with them. That's going to be a big help, too. Doug Baldwin isn't a top 5 receiver. I wouldn't even say he's a top 10 receiver, but as far as what he does... As far as what he does for the Seahawks offense, he is a very good receiver.
He used to be top 10.
Yeah, I'd say at his peak when he just wasn't getting injured all the time.
Yeah, well, you can say it with a lot of players.
Mm-hmm. But I think he's going to be a big help for this offense, just considering, I mean, running game hasn't been necessarily great. You had Chris Carson, who did well last week. Brandon Marshall's been a solid number 2, I'd say, for them. I mean, he'll never be a number 1, but as far as him being the number 2 receiver there, I'd say...
not number 1 for his age.
Yeah, I'd say
he was a number 1 at one point in his career, though.
Yeah, and I'd say as far as...
And Alshon Jeffrey on the Bears was probably that was probably the best 2 wide receivers in the league at that point. Mm-hmm. They were both on the top of their game with Chicago, and they couldn't get it done.
Well, that's just the Jay Cutler problem there.
I wouldn't say Jay Cutler was the yeah.
Jay Cutler.
It's also the Bears.
Jay Cutler, yeah, but Jay Cutler had Hall of Fame talent. You just didn't care enough to utilize it, I'd say.
He really didn't seem like he gave anything, did he?
Yeah, it just seemed like I don't know. Maybe he was just out here.
He just had.
It didn't seem like he loved football. He didn't love football, I think, is what his problem was.
Just with Alshon Jeffrey now with the Super Bowl champion team and Brandon Marshall now a journeyman. Do you see Alshon Jeffrey having a better career than Brandon Marshall at the end of the day? I guess already he does, huh? With the Super Bowl ring.
Super Bowl rings are team stats. You can't really put a Super Bowl to an individual player if you're comparing the two. I mean, fans do, but I mean, again, you need a team to win a Super Bowl.
Well, he helped them, definitely.
Yeah, but has Brandon Marshall ever been on a team that was a Super Bowl contender? You can't do it on your own. The Jets, no. The Bears, no.
The Jets.
The Broncos, no. Miami, no. He's never really been on a great team.
He's been on a lot of teams, hasn't he?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really Super Bowls, I guess, if you want to use them with quarterbacks, that's fine. But with receivers, I think you got to look at the stats at that point.
Yet there's not one bowl in that game.
Yeah.
When I mean bowl, I mean like a legitimate bowl. I don't know why I just went with that topic, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with the Seahawks. But I think, like I said, they'll be decent and competitive this season.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Next segment, we're going to be heading over to the AFC South, talking about the Titans, Rashard Matthews, and maybe we'll get into some of those other AFC South teams also. So stay tuned, and we will be right back.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Jeff and I have spent these first 2 segments previewing Thursday Night Football and also talking Seattle Seahawks football. In the second segment, now we move on to the AFC South, and we talk Tennessee Titans. Probably going to get into some of the other teams in the AFC South, but first and foremost, Rashard Matthews, a man who recently signed a deal with that team, now wants to be released. Why? Because he's not really getting an opportunity. I mean, he spent a lot of the offseason out due to his injury, didn't really do much in training camp because of his injury, and hasn't really done much since he's been out on the field. He says that in the last 2 years he's been a top receiver on their team, but now is the 4th guy. I mean, I guess I understand it from his standpoint. You just want to play, but also, I mean, you did miss training camp, preseason, all that, so it is going to take a while for the team to get you reacclimated into it. But, I mean, Rashard Matthews isn't necessarily a top-end receiver. He's always been a slot guy, I'd say. But looking at his stats the last few years with Tennessee, courtesy of Pro Football Reference. Let me pull that up real quick. With Miami, he was solid. I knew that. I was actually kind of surprised when they didn't bring him back given how good he was. But looking at Rashard Matthews, So the last couple, he's been with Tennessee for 3 seasons, this being his third. His first year, he caught 65 passes for 945 yards, 9 touchdowns. 2017, he caught 53 passes for 795 yards, 4 touchdowns. Again, those are decent numbers for a slot receiver. But, I mean, you got Corey Davis there. He's obviously going to be the guy. And I think after that, yeah, maybe Rashard Matthews does have a case as far as what he's talking about. But, I mean, if he's not buying into what they're doing and all that, then, yeah, he's got to get out of there and find somewhere new. And I'd say that's probably what's best for the Titans. You can't really keep someone who doesn't want to be there around.
Yeah, true. When someone doesn't want to be around, they're not going to play as hard or well for you, and that's going to put a detriment to your team. So I think it's the best interest for both sides to trade him.
And I think, I'm not sure if he ends up getting traded. I know he's asking for a release. I mean, is there really a market out there for Rashard Matthews given the deal that he has? And let me see if I could find out his current deal also, because that'll pretty much help us out as far as what his value would be given. I mean, he's been injured he's been injured in the offseason. So let me pull that up real quick. And either way, I mean, the team that could use him is a team like the Patriots. They need wide receiver help. That's clear. And Rashard Matthews, I think, fits that offense there. And he's actually he's on he's on the hook for he's got an $8 million cap hit this season. He's got a $6 million cap hit next season. So you look at it, I'm assuming they'd have to trade him considering no one's going to want to take that cap hit. Or you'd have to release him considering no one's going to want to take on that money that he's due.
Yeah, do you think he was overpaid, though?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, he was solid. He's not getting like top receiver money or anything like that.
Yeah, from the contract, and he has that size of a contract and wants to leave, that means he just does not want to be there.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with him, given the fact that, I mean, he's not like a great top-end receiver. Like I said, no one's going to... I wouldn't say no one's going to be clamoring for him. There is going to be a market for him, but it's not like a Josh Gordon or anything like that. Not even close. So we'll see what ends up happening with him. As far as the Titans, I mean, they're off to a good start, I'd say. They're 2-1 with new head coach Mike Vrabel. Lost that first game of the season to Miami, who's currently 3-0 there. So maybe, I mean, you just lost to a good team there. Or just one where, I mean, the game lasted for 7 hours, given all the delays they had.
Oh, that's right.
Plus Mariota left. He looks like he's going to be playing this week, according to Mike Vrabel. I think they're currently playing, they're going to be playing the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday. I mean, that's one where I put him falling to 2-2. But as far as it goes, you look at it, there hasn't really been a far and away best team in the AFC South. Jacksonville has been that team that we expected to win the division and to go far in the playoffs. And again, it is really early, so I mean, we can't really make any judgments right now. Jacksonville's 2-1, Tennessee's 2-1. Jacksonville last week against Tennessee, I'm not sure really what happened. The offense just didn't show up. You had Blake Bortles who threw 4 touchdown passes against the Patriots the week before, and here against the Titans, it's just he's inconsistent. He just turns into Blake Bortles. You got the Colts who are 1-2, and then I think the most surprising thing of the season is the fact that the Houston Texans are currently 0-3.
Yeah, but that's not surprising to me.
You wouldn't think the Texans, given you're getting J.J. Watt back, you got Clowney, you got Merciless and all those guys on the defense, and you got Watson coming back. I mean, you thought...
It's just the Houston Texans have never been, like, a dominant team. Regardless who's on, like, if J.J. Watt's there, they've always had a struggling regular season. Even when they make the playoffs, it's like 9-7 or 10-6. It's not like anything impressive.
Yeah, but that is different teams, and we're at a new standpoint where they finally have their quarterback, so they think with Deshaun Watson. You got DeAndre Hopkins.
He's been playing has been very poor, also.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it has been surprising, given everyone thought he'd be playing a lot better.
Yeah, true. But how they've been playing doesn't surprise me. They've always been known as like the redheaded stepchild of Texas.
Yeah. And you look at the Colts. The Colts are still a work in progress, I'd say. I mean, I want Andrew Luck to succeed as much as the next guy, but I know it's going to take some time for him to get back into not football shape, I'd say, to get back to the old Andrew Luck. And I'm not even sure if he'll ever return to being that Andrew Luck, just given, I mean, the dude basically seemed like he needed a new shoulder at one point. We weren't ever sure if he was even going to come back and play for this Colts team. So now, the way you look at it, I mean, there's no, I say, clear-cut best team in the AFC South. I'd say even though the Colts are currently 1-2, they're still a decent team. I mean, they got 2 losses against the Redskins, who are 2-1, and the Eagles, who are 2-1 there. They beat who did the Colts beat early on in the season? I think they got a week 1. No, they lost to I might be mistaken. No, they beat the Redskins 21-9, excuse me. They lost to the Bengals week 1 and lost to the Eagles last week. The Bengals are currently 2-1, I believe. Yeah, they're currently
they just lost last week.
2-1, losing to the Panthers last week in Carolina. So, I mean, they did beat a decent team in Cincinnati, I'd say, or in Washington. I don't know why I keep thinking they lost to Washington, mainly because I think Washington is just a good team, so I just assume. But either way, I mean, who do you think is going to be winning this division? And, I mean, before the season started, I figured we'd get maybe 3 playoff teams, given how good the division was, at least on paper. But who do you think is going to end up, at least for your front runner, way too early prediction?
For the AFC South?
Yeah.
The Jaguars still. I think the Jaguars are still going to take that division.
Yeah, and I agree with you there. I mean, I just can't stand Blake Bortles.
What's your hate on Blake Bortles?
I don't hate Blake Bortles. Just the fact that he can't stay consistent. If he was consistent, this team would be one of the best in the NFL. But I feel like quarterback.
You say that with like a majority of the quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah, that's fine and all. But you look at the team they currently have. They have the best defense in the NFL. They have solid receivers, a solid running back. If Blake Bortles was at least able to put consistent performances, I'm not saying you got to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, but you be consistent. This team is much better and clear cut. I'd say one of the best in the NFL. But I think Bortles kind of holds him back. So are you saying
like trade him or try to sign someone on the free agent market?
No, because you can't do that given they just gave him a new deal in the offseason. So he's got 2 more years left as the starter for sure. I mean, I figured maybe you look after Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater type or anything like that before they gave him that deal. But them giving him that deal kind of shut the door on that.
Yeah, of course. Especially, it's not like you're going to sign a guy like that and go, hey, by the way, we just signed another big-time quarterback, so have fun out competing for the job.
Yeah, so that's not financially responsible there to do that. So, I mean, he is the guy for the next couple of years. I mean, Tennessee, I'm curious to see what exactly they are. I'm not sure if they're a good...
The Titans.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're a good team or they're average or they're just... I don't know what to think of. I mean, they're 2-1. Obviously, that's decent to start off the season. I'm not sure...
2 weeks. Let's wait a couple.
But, I mean, they were a playoff team last year.
Okay.
And
we both agree that team was not playoff anything. They just somehow made it there.
But even then, so, I mean, you're picking up wins. Like, I'm not... Honestly, my problem is with Marcus Mariota. I don't know how good of a quarterback he is. It's his 4th year. I'm not sure what to think of the guy at this point.
Guess you can say the same thing for Jameis Winston.
Yeah. But you look at the defense. I mean, Tennessee's defense has been solid to start. Running game has been solid. Receivers have been good. It's just, again, with them, it's the quarterback. I mean, you had Blaine Gabbert last week's start. I think they ended up winning that one, but he ended up coming away injured with a concussion, I think it was. The week before that with Mariota. Yeah, so, I mean, they had their one loss against Miami. Week 2, Blaine Gabbert starts that one. And, I mean, doesn't really play well, but does good enough, I guess, to help them win.
Well, I wouldn't say that's Mariota's fault. The offensive line is not that great. And he is a scrambling quarterback, kinda. I think
he's kind of
considered scrambling.
No, he's a pocket passer first, I'd say.
Okay, because when he won the Heisman, I would see him more as a scrambling guy.
In college, he was, but I think he's in the NFL. He's kind of moved more towards. He doesn't really look to run first. He's in the pocket. If he's got to get out of the pocket and run out, then he does that. But,
God, I'm on a yawning attack.
I mean, this AFC South is one of the most unpredictable divisions considering, I mean, I could see an instance where the Colts end up winning this division. I mean, it's that...
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying they are anything like that, but...
Well, I mean without Chuck Pagano, they have a chance of winning.
Yeah, I'd say you can clearly tell that with Andrew Luck, they still are a much better team, even though it's been 3 weeks compared to last year. I'd say without Luck, they're 0-3, but with him, they got that one win. Should have at least had a chance to have an opportunity to score in week 1 against the Bengals, but with Jack Doyle fumbling, that kind of just ruined their chance there. And with the Eagles last week, I mean, they were in it till the end.
Well, to be honest, I think the Colts had Chuck Pagano way too long because he survived his cancer, which is great. But I think that they thought of that as like it's wrong to fire a guy like that. So what I think is that they held him on for too long. If they got another coach with a team like that, they could have had a better run in the last couple of years. Like this is the guy that said, we got our butts kicked to the 49ers, but they played the Rams that week.
Yeah, I mean,
and the classic fake punt thing.
I never really understood that play.
Well, he wasn't supposed to snap the ball. No, because he. That's the thing. The play call was they were supposed to have the guys jump off sides or something of that nature. But the guy, I don't even know who snapped the ball. It was like a receiver or something, just snapped the ball.
and the guy didn't expect it to. If you watch the replay, the guy he snaps the ball and the guy goes, "Oh wait, why is the ball here?"
Yeah,
and then he gets tackled. Like it was a bunch of confusion, and it wasn't exactly his fault, but it executed probably as poorly as you could possibly execute any play. But he will always be Chuck Pagano will always be remembered for that, and they held him on for too long.
Yeah, I'd say so too.
So maybe if they had a different coach a few years ago, they could be a different team now. But
well, I mean, the last 2 years they have been without Andrew Luck too, and you're not really going to win many games without him.
Oh yeah, it's completely unfair. But I think maybe with a different coach, they maybe a different general manager, they could have picked offensive linemen in certain drafts and maybe gotten them in free agency.
Yeah.
It could be a different team with different management. But with the management they had and with the coach they had, they were destined for failure.
I mean, you're not wrong with that one. I mean, the Colts have always just been a terrible team when it comes to drafts. Even with Peyton Manning, I mean, you had solid players on that team with Manning. I'd say Manning's team was a whole lot better than what they currently got here with Luck.
They also, like, the year after that, I believe they also picked Edgerrin James, who was a very stellar running back.
Yeah.
But after that, I can't tell you who they drafted.
Yeah, they've never really been good as far as drafting. So we'll see what ends up happening with this AFC South division. I mean, it's still up for grabs as is any other division, but none of these teams have really shown me, okay, yeah, we're the best division currently, or the best team in the division currently, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. Like, this is still, I'd say, still up for grabs, but I still think the Jaguars are going to take it.
Yeah, as do I. So we'll see what ends up happening. Either way, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Next up, we'll be talking about anything else going on in the world of football, so stay tuned, and we will be right back.
The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC football podcast. So far to date, Jeff and I have talked Thursday night football. We also talked, talked Thursday night football. What else we get into? We got into Earl Thomas. We got into the Tennessee Titans and the AFC South in that last segment. Now we look forward to the weekend that is in the NFL, Week 4. And look ahead to some storylines. Obviously, one of them being Tampa Bay versus Chicago. The storyline there being Fitzpatrick or Jameis. If you had your pick, I mean, we've been talking about it throughout the week, but if you had your pick, who are you going with, Fitz or Jameis?
Keep Fitzpatrick. I mean, 400-yard games speak for him. He didn't play well last week, granted, but he still threw it for 400 yards. Keep the momentum going. Once he runs out of fuel, then you can go to Winston, but keep this momentum going while you have him.
Yeah, and I say you go with Fitzpatrick here too, but I think we are getting that Fitzpatrick game, meaning he's not going to play well, and I think Week 5 we will get Jameis.
You're saying Fitz-tragic is happening?
This Bears defense forces a lot of turnovers, and Fitzpatrick likes to throw a lot of turnovers. I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose here, and I think the Bears defense...
So Fitz turnover?
Yeah, I think the Bears defense is going to expose him here.
Yeah, basically anything that happens, you're just going to say Fitz, and then whatever happens. So Fitz throws, Fitz touchdowns, and we're going to see if he actually does or throw Fitz pits. Ooh, Fitz pits. Fitz picks. There, perfect. Nailed it.
Oh, it works. But you look at it, I mean, Fitzpatrick's been a nice story. Okay, he had the little cool press conference where he was wearing Deshaun Jackson's clothes and all that, and the chains.
Was that Deshaun Jackson's clothes?
Yeah,
that sounds right.
That was hilarious. It also makes me think, I mean, Deshaun Jackson's a small guy. I feel like Fitzpatrick's a real tall guy, so I'm not sure how that really worked out.
Well, it didn't really look like it fit him, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. But you look at it, I mean, he's had a nice story. Like you mentioned, the 400-yard games. I mean...
Last week, not a lot of players can say that.
Yeah, I mean, last week was a lot of them in garbage time, meaning the second half, but...
Still 400 yards.
Yeah, I guess, if you look at it on the surface. But, I mean, yeah, I think this is it for Fitzpatrick. He's a solid backup quarterback, and that's all he'll ever be, honestly. I mean, I'm not trying to hate on Fitzpatrick, it's just the way it is. And I think Jameis Winston's going to come out. I think Jameis Winston, too, he'll have a little bit of a renaissance type of year, I'd say, where... we're finally going to see, I think, good Jameis here. Meaning, as far as his play on the field, I don't know as far as off the field. We'll see how that goes. It's a work in progress. But Jameis Winston has the tools to eventually become a top 10 quarterback. Just as long as he limits the turnovers, I think he can be that. Plus, he's got to work on his deep ball accuracy also. I mean, with Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans, there's no better receivers to do that with than them two.
Granted, but I still think Jameis Winston still can be considered a bust if he doesn't play well this season.
Yeah.
He's on his last couple of seasons here.
Yeah, he's got 2 more years this year and then his 5th-year team option that they picked up.
Once he's done with his contract rookie deal, we're going to find out if he's a bust or not.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with him.
He's on his last legs, though.
Yeah.
Especially being suspended doesn't help either.
I mean, if the Tampa Bay weren't to re-sign him, he'd still end up being a starter somewhere else. But,
where would you see him as a starter? Just out of curiosity, where would you see him as a starter?
Looking at it, you actually might have a point here because a lot of teams have the rookie quarterbacks, but just the point, let's go through the NFC East. NFC East, the Giants would be a team he could end up on, given Eli just stinks out loud right now.
Well, yeah, but Eli can also say, like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen, and they'll be like, okay, because you won us 2 Super Bowls, we'll bend to your will.
It is a new regime, though.
True.
It's a new GM and new head coach, and I think Eli...
Do you think Eli should retire?
Well, after this year, yeah, he should. I mean, the guy's done, but you look at it, Eli's got, I think, 1 more year left on his deal, and if he doesn't play well here, I mean, and the Giants are absolutely terrible, and you can clearly tell Eli is the problem. You kind of got to make the proactive move and look for a quarterback. The draft next year is terrible as far as quarterbacks. There's not too many big name ones or anyone.
I can't think of one off
move
the
the
top
needle.
of my head.
I know Real Greer out of West Virginia is one, and then you got Drew Lock out of Missouri, but they're not necessarily like Darnold, Rosen, or types or anything like that.
Well, anyone from Missouri is not going to be a barn burner.
Yeah, and you look at it.
All due respect to Missouri players, but just like if you're on Missouri, you kind of like had to settle with them instead of going with other players from that other teams from that area, because there's a lot of good teams in that Missouri area.
Yeah, so I think Jameis could end up with the Giants. He could end up just staying with the Bucs if he does play well. Again, he's got. Yeah, I think honestly, because Jameis is going to play.
Bucs might be his best bet.
He's going to play next year with them. Okay, if they don't like what they see there, they move on. The Giants could bring him in because Eli's contract will be done and Jameis will be a free agent. So I could see that. And I mean, Jameis with Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, that could work. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Well, it all goes down to Eli Manning, what he's going to decide.
Well, like I said, Eli's going to be gone after next season. He's got 2 more years, and Eli has no say once he's a free agent. Mm-hmm. And he'll probably retire after that. You look at the AFC North, I mean, maybe if Harbaugh's not happy with Lamar Jackson's progression and they move on from Flacco, which seems like it's going to happen, Jameis can fit in there.
Flacco is done, in my opinion.
Jacksonville, Bortles, like I said, has got 2 more years, and I think they can cut him.
Do you think they'll cut him?
Do
you think they'll cut him?
If they don't achieve what they want, then yes. If he's not playing,
Winston might stay in Florida.
Yeah, it's a possibility. Tennessee, I mean, could honestly be an option for him if Marcus Mariota doesn't work out there. So, I mean, I'd say there's going to be options after next season.
That'd be a very ironic thing to happen.
It would, but, I mean, there are options for Jameis Winston after next season, definitely.
But there's no guarantee starting position. I don't think.
He won't come into a team as the true backup. Maybe a quarterback competition, but... Yeah. I mean, he's
not guaranteed anything.
Yeah, but he can be a good quarterback, so we'll see what ends up happening.
He might become that journeyman that never gets another opportunity again.
Yeah, and also we got the Browns heading over to Oakland. The story there is it's Baker Mayfield's first career start. I mean, we saw what he did against the Jets last week. Now he's heading to the Black Hole, and we're going to see how well he can do here. What are you expecting from Baker Mayfield in this start against the Raiders? What are you expecting?
I'm expecting him to come in confident, and they're going to be throwing a lot. Maybe not no huddle, which I think they should do. I really think they should just start off no huddle just to get that out of the way, because I think if he plays no huddle, he can be a better player. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. We'll see. Without Khalil Mack on that defense, I think he has more opportunities to make big plays than he had before if Khalil Mack's there.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Baker Mayfield goes, like I said, I mean...
This is his true test, though. This is a full start, not just coming in at the end of the first half.
Yeah, and it's not a home game. You're on the road. I mean, the Raider fans are going to be loud and all that.
It's going to be an offensive crowd.
Uh-huh.
So this is as big a test as you can have.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying like the Raiders. The Raiders are a solid team, but I'm saying away in the Black Hole, it's not going to be easy.
Uh-huh. And, I mean, I'm expecting now with Baker Mayfield playing, Jarvis Landry, you're going to see his stats go up a bit more. You'll see David Njoku go up a bit more. Because, I mean, Tyrod Taylor isn't really a guy who takes chances. He's the ultimate game manager, safe quarterback, I'd say. Baker Mayfield, I think, is more of, not a gunslinger or anything like that, but he's willing to throw down the middle of the field more, throw deep more, and take a few more chances. And I think you need that in a quarterback, even if, I mean, it results in some interceptions here or there. I mean, you look at Brett Favre, that was just him. I'm going to take this chance and throw this ball down the field. If I throw an interception, I throw an interception.
He lived by the gunslinger and died by the gunslinger, and he kind of died more times than he won.
Yeah. But, I mean, we all know Favre ended up being, obviously, a Hall of Famer and all. And you look at Mayfield, I'm not saying that he's even going to come close to that. I'm just saying Mayfield does take a lot more chances. And against this Raiders defense...
Well, he's on the Browns. What does he have to lose?
Yeah, and this Raiders defense, too, has looked a lot better than I expected. They're not great or anything like that. They still have pass rushing problems. I'm not going to get into the Mac thing. I feel like, I mean... kind of beating...
That's already been beating an old drum.
Beating a dead horse at this point. So we move on, and obviously now it's a problem that they have, but one that they can't fix up this season unless Arden Key or Maurice Hurst end up stepping up, the two rookies that they ended up picking up. Secondaries look solid, so we'll see what ends up happening, but it should be a fun game. The Raiders are actually favored by 2.5 in this one. I'm actually kind of surprised given their 0-3.
It's the Browns, that's why.
Yeah, but the Browns were favored last week against the Jets, and the Jets, I think...
That was at home.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess maybe the home field advantage.
And it's the Jets also. There's just a bunch of but just a history of bad teams right there.
Yeah, so I guess the home field advantage is what got Vegas having them favored there. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I'll definitely be watching out for that Baker Mayfield start. We talked about Miami and the Patriots yesterday, so we won't get into it too much today. Let's see, any other games that are... Dak Prescott versus Matt Stafford. Dak's looked terrible. I don't think he's hit over 200 yards in a game yet this season. He's got to pick it up, or Dallas is definitely going to have some questions as far as their starting quarterback. I mean, Dak had that one solid season. Since then, has been kind of wavering, and this year has looked absolutely terrible.
Yes, absolutely. So do you think that 13-3 year was a fluke?
I mean...
I guess it's hard to tell.
Yeah, you got to wait and see, given... I mean, Dak has looked bad, but... I mean, I don't think Dak's a good quarterback. I think that 13-3 season was one where, again, you don't have film on the rookie, so he can do a lot more. And then when you get film, it kind of sends a step down. And year 3 is usually where you tend to tell whether or not a quarterback's going to be good for you, he's going to be bad for you. And he's been more bad, I'd say.
Absolutely.
And you got to think, maybe did they push Romo out too early? I wouldn't say that, given, I mean, Romo was just a bag of broken glass basically every time he stepped out on the field. So I think I have no problem with him going with Dak instead of Romo, but eventually they got to figure out, or Dak's got to figure it out. I mean, week 2 against the Giants, he played well, still didn't throw for over 200 yards, but I mean, he's been very underwhelming, and that's going to hurt Ezekiel Elliott considering, I mean, they're just going to stack the box against him.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Dak just has way more to prove than I think a lot of quarterbacks in the league. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't help out Zeke, then this team is not going anywhere.
Yeah, do you look at the
team
Lions?
Might be the bottom of the East.
Yeah, and the Lions are coming off a big win against the Patriots, so you know they're all hyped up, believing in themselves. So this could be a bit of a, I don't want to say trap game, given, I mean, neither team is great, but a tough game at home for the Cowboys. Easy. Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening. I mean, any other notes that you got? I know Eric Reid actually went to the Panthers. Obviously, he's been dealing with the collusion case and all that. The Panthers need secondary help, so I think Eric Reid will help there.
It just he was just in free agency for so long, and no one knew he was going to play it down this season. So he's getting his chance. A little late. Learning this defense is going to be difficult. I don't think he's playing this week, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we'll see how he ends up doing. But I mean, as far as the rest of it goes, any other news that you got?
No.
Any other thoughts for this weekend?
No, just expecting the unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, that's always with the NFL. And I'm looking at it. The matchups are kind of clunky and weird at this point. We got Jets, Jags. We got Falcons, Bengals, Bills, Packers.
It's kind of like an ant week. Like, it's nothing really significant's happening.
Yeah, we got 49ers.
Except for the Thursday night game. But.
Yeah, and we got Ravens, Steelers. That's always fun Sunday night. We got Chiefs, Broncos Monday, so we'll get to see Patrick Mahomes on the national TV stage. So, yeah. I mean, we'll see how it ends up going down. But
yeah. It's just another week in football.
Yeah.
There's no huge ramifications this week.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Thanks, Jeff, again for being on with me this week.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun.
Tomorrow, I believe I will be having Tate on the show with me since it's my final day, so that'll be a fun one. Usually it's always good talking football with him. And yeah, tomorrow
I'll be doing fantasy football.
Yeah, so check out Jeff there. But tomorrow will be my last day. It's been fun, but either way, stay tuned for tomorrow. And thanks again for listening to the GSMC Football Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.